Well, shit. Do you ever catch yourself wishing you could do powerful hallucinogenics just to make the world feel a little bit more normal? That's that's the irony, isn't it? The sober world looks insane. Facts are twisted into theories, lies are dressed as truth, and complexity is drowned out by absolutes. It isn't drugs that distort reality, it's the collapse of reasoning. The problem isn't the world itself, it's how we think about it, or more accurately, how little we think about it. The fuck the world today feels like a courtroom of sorts where everyone is prosecutor and jury. There's no judge, and the verdicts are delivered in seconds. News cycles, social media debates, public commentary, they are riddled with quick opinions and emotional reactions. The the real issue, it seems less about uncovering truth and more about um, bending reality to validate a personal belief. People don't always form opinions from the world. Instead, they reshape the world to suit their opinions. Holmes warned us about this over a century ago, stating that it is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. That's not just a line from literature. It's it's a psychological truth, and it's taught by cognitive science even today. Holmes understood the peril of rushing to conclusions. In a study in Scarlet, he critiques detectives who, in their haste, reason backwards. Modern psychology validates this concern. Daniel Kahneman, infamously wonderful book, Thinking Fast and Slow, describes System 1 thinking: rapid, intuitive, and prone to error. It explains why people latch on to the first explanation that just feels right. Confirmation bias takes over, encouraging us to notice only data that reinforces our existing belief. I hope I hope the weight of the danger of that sits in. Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance shows why contradictory facts create discomfort. It's so our brains work overtime to eliminate them. Neuroscientifically, it's fueled by the amygdala's response to emotional triggers, which can override the prefrontal cortex's capacity for rational deliberation. Pessoa, 2008. Talking through some kind of made up dissertation in my head. Holmes's method was slow observation before theorizing. That was the antidote. He models system two thinking, deliberate, evidence led, and resistant to emotional shortcuts. You can look at, forgive me, I'm about to do something gross. Not that kind of gross on the internet. Take your minds out of the gutter. Whoa, apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, ice, water, and a little cayenne pepper. Um, when was I? Granularity, whether it be emotional or linguistic. Holmes was Holmes was meticulous with language, right? There's many times he distinguishes between seeing and observing. For him, words weren't for him words weren't interchangeable. They reflect one's level of attention, precision, and understanding, which is why I have such a problem with the word guess. A guess is based on nothing. If you're not sure about your reasoning path you follow, or you don't feel confident in it, that's something else, but it's not a guess, and your words shape your reality. One word worth sharpening today that I've seen a lot in light of recent events is reasonable. It doesn't simply mean what I believe is right. In different domains, it has very specific meanings, whether you're looking at the philosophical or the epistemic definitions. Reasonable means supported by rational justification and evidence. In a legal perspective, the reasonable person standard asks what a prudent, balanced individual would do under similar circumstances, neither reckless nor extreme. In a psychological or neuroscientific aspect, to act reasonably requires cognitive control, where the prefrontal cortex regulates emotion and tempers impulsive reactions. In contrast, a great number of examples of public discourse, they often stray from that definition. We see binary framing, as in this or this. We see only outrage-driven responses and identity-based reasoning. These are, by definition, not reasonable. They lack proportionality, evidence, and balance. To be reasonable walks hand in hand with fairness, and fairness is to consider all parties involved. Not asking to come to any kind of a conclusion or determine anything, but to be reasonable is intrinsically linked to fairness. To actively negate data that is pursuant to other people is not reasonable, especially if it's connected to whatever point it is that you're trying to make. Holmes's emphasis on linguistic clarity reminds us, without precision, words become blunt instruments. If we cannot define reasonable, we cannot hope to act it out. And there's going to be a number of people that are going, oh, words, sticks and stones. Great. That's got a very specific ring to it. If somebody calls me a name, it doesn't matter unless I feel that they have some kind of point that they're making. But if enough words are said, they have come from thoughts and inevitably lead to action. When you look at this kind of binary framing or black and white thinking, Holmes himself operated in moral grey zones, recognizing that human behavior is rarely simple. One of my favorite stories, if not my favorite story, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. He lets a petty thief go free, reasoning that justice required more nuance than strict legality. Modern neuroscience supports this worldview. Uncertainty activates the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, creating discomfort. To relieve that tension, people simplify. This or this, for or against, right or left. The binary impulse fuels today's polarized climate. Complexity feels unsafe, so people retreat to absolutes. Holmes thrived in ambiguity. He held competing possibilities open until the evidence was over. That that tolerance for uncertainty is a hallmark of critical thinking, and it's what modern discourse desperately lacks. But the challenge goes deeper. Many people place their faith in individuals who are repeated, proven, irrefutable liars. Like, not a matter of opinion, but an observable fact. As in claims made in contradiction to verifiable evidence. That persistence of such loyalty reveals a flaw in reasoning and observation and reality itself. But psychology explains how this occurs for those observing these individuals, known as motivated reasoning. Instead of neutrally evaluating evidence, people interpret information in ways that defend their prior commitments. If a liar represents their identity or values or a part thereof, the deception is minimized to preserve belonging. Cognitive dissonance, a term I'm sure you are all aware of. When you're faced with proof of dishonesty, the discomfort of contradiction leads many to rationalize rather than reject the figure. You could look at the illusory truth effect. Repeated statements, even false ones, are processed as more credible simply through familiarity. Neuroscience reinforces these dynamics. Research shows that partisan agreement activates the brain's reward circuitry, producing, the dopamine kind of a feel-good response. The amygdala heightens the emotional salience of the message. The prefrontal cortex, which is the reason for the region responsible for rational oversight, shows reduced engagement under strong identity alignment. The result is a paradox. Lies are then recognized but tolerated because the psychological and the social rewards outweigh the discomfort of acknowledging the deception. Faith persists not through clarity, but through comfort. Holmes's discipline was the opposite. He refused to let allegiance, emotion, or repetition cloud his observations. By anchoring himself to fact rather than personality, he preserved clarity of reasoning. That practice, holding a possibility for ambiguity, demanding evidence before theory, and refusing to let loyalty override truth is precisely what public discourse is missing. It's twisted thinking in that way. Holmes's message should be a kind of constant warning. Don't start with theory. Was not a quirk, but a safeguard. Starting with theory means you will inevitably be more at risk of cherry picking. Social psych calls it groupthink. Dissent is silenced. Consensus becomes more important than truth. Neuroscience has shown us that partisan reasoning has an activation in that reward area, region. Agreement feels nice, regardless of accuracy. That's why ideological loyalty is addictive. It lights up the striatum like sugar, gambling. Holmes's practice was ascetic. He deliberately sought disconfirming evidence, letting facts lead him. His detachment wasn't aloofness; it was cognitive cleaning, hygiene for how you would think. In a world where emotions and biases pull us towards easy certainties, his method represents a disciplined alternative. When Holmes bollocked Watson, it was never for ignorance. It was for a premature conclusion. And that's the mistake of our age. Rushing to judgment, flattening nuance, and twisting facts to serve belief. The remedy is discipline. It's discipline of the mind, of language, of emotion, the courage to tolerate ambiguity, the patience to collect data, and the humility to let evidence shape theory. And at the heart of it is the word reasonable. Not as a self-justifying label, but as a standard. Proportionate, evidence-based, regulated by both logic and restraint. Critical thinking then might sound fancy, but it's not just about some intelligence capacity. It is then about reasonableness. Without it, discourse collapses into noise. With it, we reclaim clarity, balance, and truth. To think critically is to live as Holmes did, resisting the comfort and safety of a simple, tiny, pigeonholed little box that conforms to your worldview in some sweet little way. It's choosing to be open to the clarity of the grey area. That's where reason resides. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more clarity. But unfortunately, that doesn't sell newspapers. It doesn't get views, doesn't get clicks. So clarity starts with you. The next time you feel the urge to leap to some form of certainty, stop. Regardless of what it is, I beg of you, stop. Ask yourself, what do I actually know? What am I assuming? What evidence would prove me wrong? That single pause, that Holmesian pause, that's the difference between twisting facts to fit your theories and letting facts shape your theories. It is the discipline of being reasonable. Start there. And you'll not only see the world more clearly, you'll train others by example to do the same. No ending preach of a subscription request. If you're going to do anything, do that. Maybe we'll get lucky and the world will feel a little bit more normal soon.